Welcome guys, Mr. Thomas here. I thought I'd make a quick video about mountain biking and the use of the energy systems or the interplay of the energy systems. Right now, before the run, I'm using the aerobic energy system. Aerobic means energy provided in the presence of oxygen, and it can only really happen at low intensities or moderate intensities, below 85%. So for a 20-year-old, that would work out to be below 170 beats per minute. So what's happening when I'm at really low intensity is my body is using fats as the main energy source. That process is called aerobic lipolysis. Lipolysis meaning fats. If I was to pick up the pace closer to that 85% of my maximum heart rate intensity, then you're looking at aerobic glycolysis, which uses carbohydrates exclusively, which is also known as glycogen. The aerobic system as a whole is limited by the amount of fuel that's available and the amount of oxygen that you can use in your muscles. Not how much you can breathe in, but how much oxygen you can use at your muscles. Byproducts of this system are completely harmless, which is H2O, which is water, goes back into the bloodstream, and CO2, which is carbon dioxide, which then ends up being breathed out in the lungs. So if I press play now, you can see the intensity slowly building up. Still aerobic system. We go over this rock garden, and then we end up at this first jump here. If I pause that there, what I've decided to do was to jump over that concrete block. To do that, I'm going to have to access a lot of energy really quickly. So I've only got maybe 1 second to react, 1 or 2 seconds to react and expel a lot of energy. So the intensity would be well over 85%. It's near my max. What I'm going to do is press hard on my pedals, use the suspension of my bike to hop over that concrete block. In that point, I'm accessing energy from the ATP-PC system, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. Not that the aerobic system is not being used at all, but during those couple of seconds, the ATP-PC system becomes the predominant system, the one that provides the most energy for that movement. It's high intensity, near your max. You have got about 3 to 4 seconds of stored ATP. Then after that, you've got up to 15 seconds of replenished ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, which is converted to ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. Triphosphate is the molecule that releases energy, and it's put together by the use of phosphocreatine. So once I've bunny hopped this, a lot of energy into that, and then a lot of energy to clear this next bit, a couple of pedals. Now I start to use the gravity of the run to get down the hill. So a couple of berms around here, and I'm pretty much just coasting here. Then I've got a roller, and then I have to put in some hard pedals after this, a jump, and then another tabletop, and then finally into another corner. Come out of this corner, and I need to pedal really hard. I've got a couple of little rollers here, so I'm pedaling, and then we turn the corner and a couple more pedals, a little roller, and then a jump. And then what we've got now is we've been going for about what would it be, a minute already, and my heart rate has built up to 165 beats per minute. At that point, I've increased speed. My heart rate's caught up. I have moved into the red zone, and what this red zone means is that no longer is my energy being contributed by the aerobic system predominantly. What happens after that is after the ATP system, after a couple of high intensity efforts, then my lactic acid system starts to become the predominant system. Notice we don't say kicks in or is used, it becomes predominant, which means it's the main system. All the other systems are providing energy, but just not to the level that the lactic acid system is. At this point, my intensity is well over 85% after pedaling on the flat for a bit. With this energy systems, you have up to 90 seconds of fuel available, and then what happens is that system, that high intensity system, is then limited by the amount of lactate that's starting to be produced in the blood, as well as hydrogen ions. But it's the lactate accumulation which occurs at over 85%. After the 15 seconds of ATP system, we start to accumulate at 4 millimoles of lactate per litre of blood. And that's the level that we see as the anaerobic threshold. You could also say that you've achieved OBLA, which is the onset of blood lactic acid. It's when the lactate, or lactic acid, we refer to it as lactate these days. Lactate is accumulated at a rate in which you can't clear. So eventually you will have to slow down, and usually that takes up to 90 seconds to accumulate, depending on your fitness levels and your training, of course. This fuel system, the lactic acid fuel system, is fueled exclusively by carbohydrates, which we refer to as glycogen when it's stored around the body. If I was to press play again, right now, the lactic acid system is being used, and you will notice that the breathing rate starts to increase, the heart rate starts to increase, the speed going down the hill is increasing, and what's happening is after a few more minutes my heart rate is getting up to 170 beats per minute, and it quickly achieves my heart rate max. There's a couple of things happening. We call this period oxygen debt. Now, what's happening in this part is that there's an alactic section where my ATP is being repaired, and there's a lactic section where I'm clearing lactate out of my blood. You'll notice that your heart rate remains fairly high, and that's to supply enough oxygen so that you can provide energy aerobically and try and repair that lactate system or the lactic acid system. Thank you for listening.